Greetings, Carl Richards here, and welcome to the Elementality podcast. So excited to have Brandon Galici joining us today. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much, Carl. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, so I would love to start at the place that we always start, which is the beginning. Could you just kind of settle in for a second and go back? I would love to hear. And I don't want the surface level why. I want to hear like the actual reason.
Yeah.
What drove your decision to get into this business?
Yeah. No, that's a great question, Carl. And I think for me, so actually I started college out as a sports broadcasting major and then got halfway through and then shifted to finance because I was actually looking to get into marketing because I was like, I like to communicate. I like to talk to people. So marketing, that sounds good. That's under the business umbrella. But then I got connected to the finance professor. We hit it off. So I just dove headfirst into that. And then I had the opportunity to do taxes my senior year of college in a one-on-one space. And what was so much fun is not only did I really enjoy the tax preparation piece at that time, but people would have questions. Hey, how could I lower my tax bill next year? What should I be doing over the next 12 months? And they literally I got to sit across the desk from them and answer real life questions from real life human beings. And I was like, oh, like this is really, really interesting. So started to learn more about the financial services industry and what being a financial advisor or a financial planner could potentially look like. And I was like, wow, I feel like I could have a lot of influence and impact. And we all have questions about money. Money touches every single person, whether we like it or not, it does. So man, what if I could have conversations and just help people with something that so many struggle with? So that's kind of what got me into it.
How early on did you realize that real financial advice happens in conversations? That's interesting to me that conversations were part of what you noticed early.
Yeah. So I would say I was super blessed to find Michael Kitces. I'm pretty sure before I even graduated, and I was looking back and actually. Yeah, I know, but it was my senior year. I looked back actually, and I listened to your episode on there, Carl. And so I got into the 1-page plan. And so truthfully, from the beginning, and I promise you, this is 100% true, from my very first client meeting to all of the client meetings now, I still ask, why is money important to you? So I think, so you've had a lot of influence in that, and then just other awesome folks in the community listening to the different podcasts really helped me realize early on. And then once I started having conversations with clients, I mean, that only cemented it for me.
Fascinating. Can you tell us a story or think of a time in those early conversations using a question that you use? Can you think of a time where you were like, wow, that was really impactful. Like the here's what I'm trying to get at. I would imagine nobody's come into your office asking you if they could cry on their couch.
Correct.
Or Brandon, could you please help me clarify my life purpose?
Right.
Normally they come with a presenting problem. They have a financial question. Like, I need to budget better. I need to buy life insurance. My portfolio is blown up. They have a presenting question. And we all know our job is to sort of greet them with empathy around the presenting question, but then slowly help them understand that what they really need to be doing is getting a little deeper. And you use a question to get there. Can you think of examples of where like that was super impactful?
Yeah. I mean, I would say almost every single time I use it, but one specific example, or what I find a lot of times, why is money important to you? People will start with, we'll call them the slightly more service level answers. It's financial freedom, retire someday. Money is simply a tool, like we need it. But the more, honestly, I just ask the question, Carl, and I shut up. I just let them keep talking. I'm okay with a little bit of awkward silence, and they'll keep, diving deeper. And I think one of my favorite times when why is money important to you came up, we started getting into, man, you know what, Brandon, I want my kids to have a better opportunity than I had growing up. That's my why. And it was just, wow, like that totally is reshaping. Why would we maybe have these, if we call them goals, this college goal, or building wealth so that my kids can have a better opportunity than I had? Because I grew up impoverished or whatever the case may be. And that totally, one, deepened the relationship, but then also I was able to be a much better planner because now we could phrase everything through that lens versus simply let's retire at 65 with $1 million because you read on the internet somewhere that was good.
Yeah. So amazing to me. It's just amazing to me that, like, how were you supposed to do your job if you didn't know that?
I couldn't. I really don't know how anyone does it without at least trying to get to those questions. I think it'd be really hard.
Do you have a favorite? I call them go deeper transitions or follow-ups. Do you have a favorite way? Like you say, you ask the question to be quiet, but do you have a favorite way of just kind of the nudge? Is there anything you say like keep going, or is there anything you say?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it could be tell me a little bit more about that, or another question. Sometimes that'll
Brandon,
come up.
Hold on. So that's so complicated.
Yeah, very
Tell
complex.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, exactly. Or this one might blow your mind too. Wait, what was money like growing up for you?
Yeah.
That question too. And that has been also really insightful because people will share, hey, my first job, I bought some, this person was from Ireland. I bought some soccer boots or football boots rather is what they told me. So it's like, wow, like just getting to hear people's first job, or they had a lot of money or they didn't have money, and really understanding where we've come from with money allows me as the planner to be so much better, makes much better recommendations as well, because, hey, I understand where you've come from. And I could see how, hey, if you want to maybe be a little bit more tight with your money, that makes sense based on your upbringing, or you didn't have access to name brand clothes. So now shopping is especially one of the things that you're most passionate about. So having the answer to that question, and truthfully, just the conversations, really allows me to have better conversations and then deliver better advice.
Yeah. So good. Yeah, my favorite one is just, and what else?
Yeah, love that.
Right. Just AWE, right? And what else? So good. Thank you for that. Well, actually, I want to ask you one more question. You mentioned you're comfortable with the sort of silence.
Yeah.
That awkward space of maybe asking a really good question and somebody's like, because by definition, a really good question is something that somebody hasn't been asked before.
Yeah.
How did you get comfortable with that space? Most of us aren't comfortable. Did you have to learn, or was that just a natural thing for you?
Yeah, I definitely was not. I'm still not perfect at it, I would say, but definitely at the beginning, it was a little bit more uncomfortable. And sometimes I would jump in, maybe like, hey, why is money important to you? It could be like, because I would feel uncomfortable. But then I realized if I just didn't fill that space, they would. And because, again, like you said, it's a question that most of us probably haven't been asked. It takes a second to process, especially because, like you said, they weren't coming into the office to sit and cry on the couch across from me. Right. So they're not necessarily expecting that question. So I just learned that, hey, if I just be quiet, ask this question, allow them to process, then great conversations happen out of that 10 times out of 10.
Yeah. Amen. So good. Let me ask you a question about your sort of use of elements. In particular, I want to stick with this theme around conversations. Can you think of a time when elements, the scorecard, these objective measures have given you the framework for a conversation with the client?
Yeah, absolutely. So even I'm in the middle of this process right now, actually with a prospect. They're looking to move out of the country over the next couple of years. And so instantly I was able to start having the conversation. This is after why is money important to you? What was money like growing up? So we've already built the relationship and I feel like I understand them on a deeper level, but now knowing that that is a true goal of theirs, and I would call it a shorter term goal, next 3 years versus, 40, 50 years out for quote unquote retirement or becoming work optional. So instantly I was able to say, hey, I don't have the answer for you right now for what your next step is, because we just met, but here's how we're going to attack the problem. And then specifically in their case, we're looking at their liquid term score, their liquidity, because if we're putting money if we're all about, and don't get me wrong, I love tax planning and I love legally reducing taxes as much as possible. But if we dump all of our money in qualified retirement accounts, yes, that saves us tax today. But what good is that going to do in 3 years if we don't have any cash? How are you going to move out of the country? You can't. So even just being able to say, hey, I'm not saying this is exactly what we're doing, but this is going to be a key focus. We're going to look at this liquid term score and then explaining what that is, why it's important. And it's just like, oh yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm going to ask you one more just because I'm curious. Yeah. Any other element that you've used recently to orient yourself around a conversation other than liquid term.
Yeah.
By the way, which I love, liquid term is my favorite one. And it's so easy to tell stories about it, which is why I'm asking you, is there anything else that comes to mind?
Yeah. So total term. So that's another one that's coming to my mind. In fact, so I'm recently onboarded a client who actually even requested a Monte Carlo analysis, like his words. Not even kidding. This is the first time in my entire career that I've ever had someone this detailed, this granular, using the words Monte Carlo, wanting to know what actual all those assumptions are. So he's a successful retired doctor. But so even with that, so I'm setting up the story because he knows what a Monte Carlo is, and that's what he requested. But then briefly, I know, right? But then I shifted the conversation to total term and explained what that was and broke it down. And I'm like, you have between 85, depending on your spending estimates, 85 and 108 years in your total term, which again, by way of reminder for those listening, net worth divided by annual spending. How long could we live on our net worth, not factoring in inflation, taxes, fees, any of those types of projections?
Not factoring in all the guesses.
Right. Exactly. So 85 was like not even what he's spending now. That was if he's like, cause he's super analytical. So what if I spent more? Okay, well then I did that in real time for him. Okay, fine. You only have 85 years now with about 35 of that in your liquid term.
Wow.
And by the end of that conversation, so even though we still went through the Monte Carlo, because again, he specifically requested it, we left that Zoom meeting and he felt, man, I feel comfortable and I feel confident again. I feel like I can start dreaming more. So that was actually the homework for him was, hey, start figuring out, do you want to buy that RV and travel with your wife while you're still healthy? Do you want to buy that second home in Montana? Like start considering those things. Because look, your plan is fine. We've run the Monte Carlo like you wanted. We're talking about this total term. So that conversation just wouldn't have happened because it would have only been about the numbers and the probabilities and the assumptions and forecasts versus this is what, like, you got 85 years and that's in our conservative spending number. You can do these things. So that was so much fun.
Such a great story. Yeah, it's so interesting to realize. I learned this early on that as soon as I would use data in one of the New York Times columns, people would want to argue about the data and they would miss the point.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what happened here, right? Like the point is, bro, you got nothing to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we can argue all day long about 97.2375% confidence or 92.78 confidence or what the assumptions are. But the point is, let's not miss the point here. This total term score tells you got nothing to worry about. So good. So I've got a couple kind of rapid fire questions. You can kind of take as long as you want to answer, but I'm going to ask them kind of quickly. Do you have a tool that, and it could be like really just anything. I'm interested in like what's on your desk, and do you have a tool that you use that has been surprisingly useful to you?
I would say recently I got a knockoff Apple Pencil actually, and that has been incredibly helpful. I've always got it around, and it's just really helpful because instead of doodling on notepads, which is what I used to do, there's just something about sometimes having this in my hand is just helpful, or sketching something out, or even doing something in just the Notes app, just drawing something in there to help me flesh out an answer to a question or model out, something relatively simple, but being able to visually see it. So this Apple Pencil and then my iPad has been, more useful than I would have anticipated.
Okay, perfect. What is there one thing? What's the one thing that if you did it, it has a positive impact on your life or your business? What's the one thing that if you started doing it today, it would have a positive impact on your life or your business?
It's playing in traffic, as you call it. Just continuing to
a little bit.
So putting myself out there more. So that's one of the things that even from the beginning of the year, I've just felt led to go more down that route of getting content out versus almost the traditional model. Even where I started, I was physically knocking on doors. So I bet you can guess the unnamed firm that I might have been working for. But being able to produce things and even if a few people watch it, being able to receive value from that. Like I've really enjoyed over the last couple of weeks. I actually cut up some content from actually from an Elements question that I was answering just to put out on some of my socials. And I've even enjoyed the process of that. And I'm really excited to see where that goes moving forward, because I just had a blast during it. And I think hopefully at least someone watches it, someone will receive some sort of value from it. And then also some business opportunities as well.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, like let's nail down I call them souvenirs, like the artifact. Mm-hmm. So you want to create more content, but what's the specific thing?
Video.
So that if you created and shared more video, it'd have a positive impact on your life or your business.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What's the blocker? What gets in the way of doing it?
Before, truthfully, I didn't have an excuse. So over the last couple of weeks, I've actually started to get it out there more. So now I really don't have an excuse, because I've put some stuff out and people are like, "Oh, I've noticed you're posting now."
Yeah. So it's not, you don't have a blocker with fear or time management or what's getting in your way of not doing it? Nothing. Is that what you're saying? Nothing now?
Right. I was even a sports broadcasting major, so I can't even say, "Oh, I'm afraid to be on camera or in front of the mic." So like, you can't even use that excuse. I can't even use that. So it just was, I didn't have a good reason. Procrastination maybe would be the closest to an excuse that I had, but we're kicking that to the curb now.
Totally. Okay. Last question. Let's pretend, let's just go, I'm going to just stick with 20 years.
Okay.
Let's pretend like we're 20 years in the future and you're looking back. Like, what would you hope your impact had been over the last 20 years?
Yeah, well, I want to help people not just maximize their money, but really maximize their life and maximize their fulfillment of it. So I have a tagline for my firm. I call it "Maximize Life Today, Plan for Tomorrow." So money is of course part of that, but how could I have conversations with people, some of these why questions, so that they're not just, "Oh, I can't wait to retire in 20 years, in 30 years, in 10 years and wish my life away, so that once I'm retired, I can do things that I am passionate about." So how can we reframe that conversation and allow them to see, hey, maybe you can't do this full thing that you want to do right now, but what if you started doing part of it? What if you can't completely be work optional right now, but you can serve and volunteer in this particular area that you're just incredibly passionate about, that's going to increase the joy and the quality and the fulfillment of your life, both today, but also knowing that, hey, you've got a game plan for the future that we're going to be heading towards. So it's not, let's be fulfilled in the future, let's plan for that. No, why can't we be fulfilled right now? So having those types of conversations.
So good. Brandon, super excited to watch that happen over the next 20 years.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to have this conversation today, Brandon. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Carl. Thank you for everything that you do for the industry. You've had a huge impact on me, and I know so many others too. So it's a big thanks to you, Carl.
Cheers. That means a lot. Cheers, Brandon.
Yeah. Cheers.